We are rooted the fuck in, aren't
Uh,
we, Heather?
I'm so glad it's Taurus.
And in Taurus fashion, I'm going to remember the intros right up here at the top. Folks, welcome back to another episode of Hollywood Horoscopes, Taurus Season Edition. Your hosts, Heather Cunningham and Miranda Lenski. And buckle up. We will be taking off. We will be lifting off soon. Why? Why? Here are your peanuts. And don't be a bitch. Me as a flight attendant.
I
And
love
nobody be
that.
a bitch. Thank you.
Oh
It
my
is good to be
God.
in Taurus. It really is.
It is. It really, really is. And there's still some Aries energy. I don't know about you. A few days ago, we had Mars conjunct Neptune in Pisces, um,
I felt
which,
that.
yeah, which for me wasn't, I don't know. Uh,
Wasn't your
Mars
favorite
through
feelies.
Well, so Mars has been in Pisces for a while, and Mars is Aries ruling planet. It's the planet of like assertion, how you go about getting what you want. It's your drive, it's action. And in Pisces, it's very like, I'm confused about what to take action around, or like there's too
What do
many
you mean
emotions,
action?
things are too foggy, it's all too nebulous. And then Neptune is one of the slowest moving planets out of them all. And it's Pisces ruling planet. So Neptune's happy in Pisces, but when Mars meets up to Neptune and Pisces, it's like after Mars has already been sort of in this nebulous weird space. I don't know. I've been feeling very like there's things I want to take off the ground that just
Mhm.
I for whatever reason can't do it yet. And I was feeling that
Mm,
especially the other day. But after just talking to you before we started recording,
mm,
and now with these new Taurus energies, I'm feeling
mhm.
motivated. I'm feeling like there are possibilities. I have the drive.
And I think it's such a, this is again why we need these earth seasons. We come off of a loopy doopy Pisces ass season that has a lot of reflection and inner turbulence. What? Inner turbulence. I'm still on the plane, folks. I'm still up in the air.
Inner
I, who
turbulence.
me? I'm in the clouds. Who needs more pretzels? All right. But I think right, there's a lot of like there's a lot of reflection on the year. We're at the very end. Like again, when we think about not only these elements, right, that these seasons sort of really bring out, of course. Naturally, any water season, for example, is going to always be just that, a little water. It's going to be a little wishy washy. It's going to be a little all over the place. Pisces, especially in those
Yeah.
respects. And then also its lineup in the overall theme of things being that the very end of the year. Then Pisces, really, an Earth should have come after Pisces. We should have rethought that probably. um, the universe.
Right? I know.
But then because then we blast, we're out of the wishy-washy and we go directly, literally directly into direct Aries. Like Aries again, as a fiery sign, it's just that element. It's fire. So
Mhm.
there's a blast off element to it. There's an actions based element, but especially Aries in the lineup,
Yeah.
being the youngest, being the firstborn, the very like so you go through a lot of like, those are so opposite in a lot of ways, but also kind of the same. Like there is a lot about this is again where Pisces has some Aries aspects, especially at the end there. And just like Aries carries a lot of like, and we're coming off emotions, feelings, and then we're boom, those are going into our actions. This is kind of like the first breath we've really taken kind of since Aquarius. Like,
I feel like it because we also had the eclipses. Like April was
mhm,
one of the most chaotic astrological months
right.
of the year.
Which
And
splits up like which has or well no I guess Pisces is mid March but like or ends in mid March, but yes, April was in itself, this Aries season in itself was just, let alone where it's at in the lineup,
yeah,
especially this Aries. Yeah.
yeah. And I always want to start things during Aries because they say it's like the most initiatory energy. It kicks off the zodiac. uh I don't know. Whenever I say zodiacal, I want to say zodiacal year. I don't know if that's correct, but the astrological year. And I get upset with myself when I haven't like started things, but then I remember no, Aries is kind of about like just knowing in your gut like what you desire and what you want to go after.
Mm-hmm.
Taurus is where you plant the seeds. You go
And
out
follow
into the earth
through.
and follow through, and it's the fixed energy. Aries is the inspiration,
Yes.
but we can relax.
Yes.
Taurus is where you put the roots down. So
Yes.
everything's
Pisces.
moving in accordance.
Pisces is sort of the death of, or sort of, and rebirth in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Like, or like, it's the death of like what's not working. Aries, I think, is more of the rebirth of what
Yes. The
you now want
fire.
to move forward with. It's actually such a, now that I think about it, I'm like, well, and again, the universe didn't mess anything up there. Because what a beautiful season to kick off the year of understanding your, like, you, again, you just had this Pisces reflection of the year past, of the, and what you want to sort of let go of, what you want to give back to the sea, the energy you want to mourn so that you can carry forward. Then we go into initiative Aries, but that's full of inspiration and rebirth and new energies you want to conquer, new energies you want to bring in. And then exactly we go into that Taurus of like, now let's ground those, let's plant the seeds, let's trim back the hedges that have maybe overgrown a bit, that we make like,
Yeah.
let's get a little more, let's
Simplify.
shape up. Yeah, let's
Mm-hmm.
shape up if we're really going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's and I think that again, that's where the breath is of like, okay, you've got the fiery inspiration, let's sit with it, let's breathe, and let's root in what we're really going to say we're going to do.
Yeah.
And Taurus too, in that way, is still the bull. It's still a go fucking forward, but it's
Uh-huh.
also, it's a plant of like, it's about planting the feet, getting dedicated to the cause
Mm-hmm.
so that you can charge forward with it. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful
Yeah.
lineup.
Yeah.
I take
And
everything back that I said earlier.
I know, me too. Cause yeah, I've been thinking lately, like, no, actually it's all happening in accordance. Also, we started the year with this Mercury retrograde in Aries, which also
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't like to spend too much time talking about Mercury retrograde, but I really felt it this time. And anyway,
Yeah.
now it's out of retrograde, right as we're moving into Taurus. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But also, May is supposed to be one of the luckiest months astrologically, or like fortuitous, abundant months of the year, because we have this crazy ass lineup in Taurus of Jupiter, Uranus, and then Venus is about to enter, and the sun, obviously. And so it's like the four most beneficial planets in Taurus together, all on my moon. I'm super excited.
Mm-hmm.
But all in your rising. But yeah, and where was I going with this? Mars is Aries ruling planet. Venus is Taurus's ruling planet. And it's kind of cool and I think rare that now Mars is going to be in Aries while Venus is in Taurus. So it's like the masculine principle at its highest and its most comfortable
Mm.
place, and the feminine. Um, yeah.
Interesting. That's
So
very
there should
interesting.
be it should be easier to achieve a balance of like, I want to assert myself in this way and go after what I
Right.
want, but I also want to do that with like beauty and feminine flair and like taking my time and um being intuitive about it.
Right. What a interesting little lineup. Or
Mhm.
what a little and like that happens too with like, or it's just interesting how these sort of pairs happen, or again these contrasts always like, ah, that's so Libra of the universe. But like,
I
I love
know.
that we always will get sort of like both sides,
Mhm.
the yin and the yang of things.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's just a constant reminder of the balance.
Mhm.
And what makes this energy different is also what makes it very similar. And at the end of the day, it all is a part of one bigger universal sort of, um what the fuck am I trying to say? Just like a bigger operation. It's constant lessons of we are all one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, I just, yeah. And I'm saying that in the middle of Taurus season, baby.
I know.
But yeah,
I
and we
agree.
were talking about this too, Heather. I know on a personal level, as we just mentioned, you have Taurus moon and
Mhm.
I have Taurus rising. So we
Mhm.
both, again, the seasons are for everyone. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Just like even if you have zero Taurus placements in your chart, it
It's in
doesn't
a
mean that you don't.
house. It's you feel the transits. Yeah.
Right. We never still don't receive energy from that season
Mhm.
regardless. Again, because we're all part of the bigger one. Um, but yeah, I especially like I've just happened to be coming across, and I was telling you this, like we talked about this before too, like you get like almost rewarded by the universe. One of the fastest ways to sort of tap into your universal energy is through your rising sign. The
Mhm.
rising is so much more prominent, I think, than people give it credit for, just like the moon
So
is.
much more. Yeah.
So naturally, you and me are going to be feeling this placement in this season a little heavier because of how strong our placements are. But I have to tell you, especially with like spring coming and on a personal level for me, with Taurus being my rising, um, I've been really trying to tap into it more, been going on more nature walks, petting my plants.
Yes.
I just actually gave all my plants like fresh new soil, repotted, all new baths,
Love that. Yes. Get
some
art on that
trims.
wall.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
Anyways,
time
yeah,
to
truly. It is a time to take the moments for the little beauty in things, the little
yeah.
details, the things that on a surface level seem not a necessity, but oh, the things they do for the insides, the getting
Yeah.
how mentally refreshing it is to feel grounded in so many, and that shows up in multiple different ways. But
Yeah.
yes, I've been personally trying to tap into my Taurus more. It's not a bad season to tap into, I'll tell you.
Not at all. I fucking love Taurus. Yeah, but I'm glad you brought that up again about tapping into the rising sign. I think Liz Green is the always comes back to Liz Green. I think she's the first astrologer that I heard say it, like, especially if you have a natal chart that has a lot of contrasting things in it, which I would argue every chart does to some extent. But
Right.
the rising sign is what you should tap into to sort of integrate all of the energies.
Mm.
And yeah, it literally dictates how the rest of the chart unfolds. Like it dictates the house placements, and it dictates where your first house starts. And the first house is the house of self, of just your identity and raw power as an individual. So yeah, tapping into the
And I
rising.
Yes, I don't think people realize. Again, of course, we put a lot of emphasis on the sun sign, and again, that is important. It's not to say it's not important. It's quite literally the sun. It's like, it's the center, right? But I feel like, especially newbies who are just now learning even how to read their chart or like where their first house is and how that all works. Yes, your rising sets the tone for your entire chart and its placements and where your houses go. That blew my mind when I first learned that. And I think it's still something I have to remind myself of the importance of, because the sun is the sun. It quite literally, when we think about the actual physical sun, for example, like there's no muting it, that we revolve around it. It's the thing we don't even have to think about. It's the fucking sun. Like it just
Yeah, it's
is.
gonna shine. Yeah.
It just is. It's gonna be the sun. How, as I'm like blocking this
Yeah.
light, as I'm like orbiting around. That one's for the YouTube watchers only. Apologies, listeners. But right, like it is. That's what we mean. So it's not to say that it's not important, but I think what people don't realize, that is just without thinking. That is so much of. It's just so much of you as a person still. However, it just was a wild to me to learn that the rising placement is sort of what dictates everything else. Not to say that that's not super important, and also to say your moon doesn't have weight, but I don't think a lot of newcomers to astrology, and I don't blame them for not knowing this, because we start with the sun, right? That's the base, that's the foundation, that is the fucking universe. Without the sun, nothing's orbiting around
Right.
it. There's no light
It's
to see the
the life
placement.
force. Yeah.
But if you think of the sun as more of like, yes, just that, like a lamp or a light on your chart, and less of the center of it. Like,
Yeah.
remember that it's more there to shine a light, and it's more there because it's not
Yeah.
going anywhere. It's not something we even have to think about. It's there. So now we all orbit around it. But like the rising is so much more of like the inner workings of your chart. And
Mhm. They say it
I
too.
don't know
It's
if I'm
like,
making any fucking
no, you
sense.
absolutely are. I
Like
was just gonna
visualizing
say,
it.
no, no, no. I think you articulated that really well. I love the shining a light imagery. It does it like it's consciousness, and it brings when the sun transits around a point in your chart, it says that it brings that area like to life
To
within you or
right.
to consciousness.
The
But
light shining a little more in this direction. Right, right.
yeah, they also say that the rising sign is like the direction you should be moving toward. It's literally the sign that was like on
Mm.
the horizon when you were born. So it's
Hmm.
like the path you're so it points to like the path you're supposed to take. I've heard a lot of astrologers say, or like the just the way it's also like how you approach things. It's the first house. So it's how you approach life, how you approach the whole it's the start to your
It's like
everything. Um
you learn it's a cheat sheet almost. Or like
yeah, yeah.
I think that when feeling lost, where it's like, well, I am like, for again, for example, for me with my sun sign, I am someone who I'm like, oh yeah, that is, I am that. Like I Pisces speaks to
Right,
me.
right.
Like I speak to it. I think a huge challenge that like the chart again is a map, right? If
Yeah.
you look at it as a map or a cheat sheet or almost like a code, a lot of the this is why we see a lot of people deal with the same patterns throughout different stages of their life, throughout Saturn
Mhm.
returning, yada yada.
Mhm.
um I almost think when you look at your birth chart as a cheat sheet or a code or a map to your natural patterns that you're going to be facing, that's just or I think that's more of the challenge. Again, the sun isn't something we necessarily have to work on or not necessarily like tap into as much. I know some people don't feel as much as their suns, but now I'm wondering if those people are more in tune with their rising and more connected to
Yeah.
it. And I do think that's maybe so much of the challenge. Like the sun is the sun, yes, but like this is going to be your route. This is going to
Right.
be your ups and downs that you
Yeah,
see,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
reoccurring patterns that you
Yeah,
find.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
By being in tune with your rising, you're more equipped.
Totally, totally. Also,
Beautiful.
not to make it too much about us, you and me, but I feel
I'm
like
trying not to
a
do
lot
that
of
either, and I'm
well,
failing.
but also I kind of like when astrologers contextualize things into their charts because I feel like other people can relate like if they have similar.
Or apply it later, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, listeners.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say like for you and me, I mean, okay, so like I have Leo rising. So the rising sign also dictates your ruling planet, which is
Mm-hmm.
also a major thing. So like me as Leo rising, my ruling planet is the sun, and that's supposed to be like the most important planet in your chart, but my shit is such a contradiction because it's like my rising is Leo, I'm supposed to shine and express. That makes my ruling planet the sun, which is opposite Leo and Aquarius in the seventh house, which is actually about the other and about letting other people shine and being about the community. But then all these other planets,
Mm.
it's so and you as Taurus rising, being born during the Pluto and Scorpio generation, with Scorpio being the opposite planet, you have Pluto in the seventh opposite your rising. So I'm sure that a lot of people can resonate with like you have the rising, but then maybe you have a really strong planet opposite that
Right.
also adds another layer or another just thing to be aware of. Like, I don't know. Like for me personally, it's very easy to like reject the Leo because there's this other part of my chart that needs expression, but then I have to remind
Mm.
myself, no, but I actually have to go back to the Leo and the Leo is the way I can integrate it all. But uh yeah, I don't know if that
That
was helpful.
because I think it's something that you've talked about so often on the podcast of like the importance of tapping into the rising. And I don't know why that's something that like I think is really clicking for me. Obviously, probably currently because it is Taurus season and that is my rising. So I'm paying attention to it a little
Yeah.
more selfishly. But that's why I wanted to bring it up and circle back because I think I'm hyperfixating on this right now because where the sun is and how it applies to me selfishly. But it reminded me of like how much I still forget this aspect and how like yes, again, like, and how I more just had this realization myself too. And for the beginner astrologers who are really just now like tapping and getting into it and learning more about their chart, that it is just such a great starting point of understanding the
Yeah.
flow of things from here on out. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Also,
just The
Yeah.
layers. Go
It's
on,
also
sorry.
awesome to pay attention. I think I've said this before, but it's great, like, especially you right now, you're living it, is like paying attention to um the time of year when you're in your rising sign season, because that kicks off a whole 12-month cycle. So like it's kind of like your own personal astrological new year
Ah.
when your sun goes over your rising because it's entering your first house and about to go through the next 12 houses. This should be a big time for you, this Taurus season, because all of this action, it's like the most fortuitous month of the year and it's happening in Taurus and it's all very rare. Like the Jupiter Uranus conjunction only happens every 14 years. And
Mm.
I think only happens in Taurus like once in our lifetime. And then we had like, so there's a lot that's on your rising. I don't know. I see a lot
That's
expanding for you.
exciting.
Yeah.
Thank
Just as
God.
a side tangent.
Oh my God, we
You're
need
in
the
an
expansion.
attracting mode, especially when Venus enters.
I don't chase, I
Yes.
attract. Um,
Yes.
no, but this is what I'm saying. And see, and maybe that's also why I'm personally, energetically feeling it a little bit more, of course.
Yeah.
Again, we'll transition away from me eventually. Um, but yeah,
Well,
it is just like, but for anyone who, if you're following your rising, and especially when the sun sort of kicks off your rising, that's really interesting to know, to kind of pay attention to what season we're in,
yeah.
because I think this is something I've talked about on the podcast before because of where my birthday is, which is mid March, and spring is starting to peak out a little bit. We're starting to get just like patches of warmer days. Now we're in like, things are blooming, things are fully like, it's here now. We're not just in the like the back and forth. And that just happens to be my rising too. I've always, even when I lived in places without seasons, have like loved this, like the spring of things. And that's
Yeah.
naturally going to feel like a fresh start. But I'm very selfishly, I think, lucky that that is just also sort of the lineup for me. But yes, I hear you energetically. All the eclipses, the rev up of this during that transition of the actual physical weather was crazy. This is just like
Hmm.
a loaded time, I think, for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is a nice little
Yeah.
extra little sprinkle for me, of course. I
I'll
will
also
take it.
add though that Taurus in general is an attractor sign, being Venus
Mm.
ruled. It's very God, I always forget yin is the one that like attracts and yang is, or is that the opposite? I should know this, but I always
I
forget.
think it is. I think you're.
I feel yin
We'll
energy is
table it.
what is passive and attracts. Anyway, Taurus is very even, which is interesting because it's also like the bull and it has a very strong desire principle. It's very like, I
Right.
want that, that's what I want, I'm gonna get it. But in a way that's more like, but I'm gonna take my time and be slow and like attract, just trust that I'm attracting the energy and the things that I need as I move slowly toward this goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to bring it back to Taurus in general. It's a great
It
sign.
it is, and it is interesting. Speaking of the bull, like I think people are again newbies to astrology. The symbolism of the bull, and the bull being the sign for for an energy that is very like grounding nature, sort of getting your roots in, right? The importance of the details, the quality of things,
Hmm.
not so much like the quantity, or
Right.
the beauty in things. I think the bull is so perfect for Taurus, because again, Taurus does get the rep of being a little more stubborn, but I don't think that's from a place of like, my opinion's right, yours is wrong. I do think it's from a place of like being rooted into core values, core beliefs, like
Yes.
knowing, being so sure, like literally being like a tree trunk on where you stand.
Hmm.
Um, because like if you're gonna stand for something and on something, like a Taurus is gonna know why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Like that to me is so like bull like, of like, mess with the bull, you get the horns. Like
Hmm.
if leave the bull at peace, and it's one with nature, and it's abiding by, but it's not afraid to like fight for its fucking stance on
Yeah.
shit. And like
Yeah.
I think it applies beautifully and perfectly to Taurus. I can see why
Yeah.
it would be sort of a little maybe confusing. It's not so much like the Aquarius, like why is there water symbol if it's air? Which, as we know, it's the water bearer.
Right. Right.
Which
I
again
know
makes
that.
all the sense in the world for Aquarius now to me. Like now feel like I really get that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, again, the bull coming out of the fire, that is Aries, right?
And
Like
Aries being the
the
ram, which I always
ram.
confuse. Yeah, I'm always like, they're so
The
similar,
ram
right?
is coming out of the fire and now the bull is here to hold it down. Like I
Yeah,
do think
yeah.
that's really interesting, that symbolism. Very similar to Aquarius being the
And
water bearer, for
Pisces, yeah,
example, and then
yeah,
Pisces being the fish, the water.
yeah.
Like I almost do wonder like the relation with like the I think a ram is, it's a little more in the name too. Like a ram is like that's the whole point and the purpose. I think even getting
Yeah,
food, right? Don't they ram?
getting
I don't know.
rammed.
Yeah, like whereas a bull's like, I'm not here to ram anybody, but if you fucking get in my path, of course I must, right?
Yeah,
Like, I don't know. That is
yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting though that they're twins like that, or in that
Mm-hmm.
sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know. As you were talking, I was thinking too about different Taurus celebrities. Like, I really do want to cover Shakespeare in the future, but I was also thinking about
Yeah.
like Eckhart Tolle and Jonathan Larson, who wrote Rent. Both of
Oh
them are
yeah.
Taurus moons. Both of them are Aquariuses with Taurus moons, but they're both very strong in their beliefs and their values, and like,
Mhm.
this is how I'm going to live my life. Like, fuck everything else. Like, this is the center. This is it. I'm the tree trunk. Like, um,
I
but
love
yeah, but
that
also
though.
I love it too. I vibe with it so, I mean, as a Taurus moon myself, I see
Right.
it like I really vibe, but it's like I love the Taurus principle of like simplifying
Hmm.
everything, focusing in on what truly matters, and just like put
Being
all your
dedicated
energy
to
into
it,
that. Yeah, devoted,
literally
dedicated, see
charging
it
forward.
through. Because there's,
Right.
when you're tapped into that, there's such a, almost like that Aries passion of like, just like, I don't
Right.
know, if you're honed in on one thing, like tunnel vision, it is like such a invigorating, you can accomplish so
Right.
much. And yeah, thinking about I really want to do William Shakespeare in one of our future episodes because I just discovered today that he's a Taurus. I'm like, of course, the person known for making the most consistent, just like the most output ever is a Taurus.
Like homie
Like,
wrote.
wrote,
He
wrote,
was
wrote,
productive
wrote.
during his years. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That like I like the work ethic that's there.
Right?
And that's why again I think it's like not not to give any shit to the earth signs, but just like bad raps or like when signs have like, oh, this is like a quality, like the stubborn thing, for example, it comes from a place of groundedness. I think the charging forward comes from a place of like, I'm locked in, I'm loaded, let's go. Like
Yeah,
there still is so much Aries that bleeds into Taurus.
I
And I
think
think that's
so.
like that is again the ram and the bull. Like I'm like, well, no wonder it's like
And
don't
the
be
Mars and the
mistaken by
Venus.
Taurus's earth.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
not here to just like chill and
Hmm.
rot. Like there's still action to the Taurus energy.
Yeah,
Um and then
yeah,
there's reward for it. And like I think that is so much part of like the following through on the action is from the energy of like knowing yourself, knowing your goals, knowing what it is that you want. That's we who wouldn't want to tap into that? Like
I know.
and I think that's like why, yes, I totally hear you about the Aries initiative and how you feel like you really got to start things now. Like if anything, it almost feels like we laid the foundation. Like there's such an
The
energy, a
energetic
foundation.
foundation. Yeah,
Yes. And now it's like, okay, now we're rooted in and
yeah.
now we're charging the fuck forward like a
Making it
fucking
tangible.
bull. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's still so much like fiery energy to the Taurus earthness.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
they're great pairs, or
yeah,
like again, when we learn more about how like the way the lineup is, how these signs bleed into each other, how their energy carries over. And
yeah. And a
I
lot
love
of the
it.
people who I know who have Taurus placements also have Aries placements because that just tends to be a thing. Like, because Sun, Venus, and Mercury travel, and Mars travel so closely together. Like, often if you have your sun or a placement in one sign, you have personal planets in the sign next to it.
Right.
So many Taurus people in my life that I'm thinking of. I mean, even you, and it's the rising, but like also have Aries placements that I
Mm,
think like work so well together that
right.
I'm kind of jealous of. At least I have my Douse of Fire. But like, yeah, I'm loving thinking about those two energies together now and how they really do like help.
Complement
So,
each
yeah.
other in the way that they're different and have like these similar, like Slytherin and Gryffindor, if I may. For
Mm,
the Harry Potter lovers out there. It's like a lot of like Harry being able to obviously to go into both Slytherin or Gryffindor, right? If we know the lore, or it's like a lot of that had to do with like him being connected to Voldemort, yada yada. But
oh
when you
yeah.
really break down the Hogwarts houses, Slytherin and Gryffindor butt heads a lot, but they share a lot of similarities.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both like charge forward action takers in different ways. But it's like it's the ways that they're different that actually when you think of like their end goals or like their overall again, like the foundation of those two is kind of very similar. Um, even
I
though
have
they
to
just maybe go about it differently.
I have to pause. I'm so sorry. Hold on.
No, that's okay. And with that, Heather, I am very excited for this next chart. Uh I just am. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a fan of this person, I think. Um even when like you kind of weren't supposed to be a fan and it was like the end thing to really I think like hate on them.
Yeah.
Um but just seeing their growth and their trajectory and sort of like I know they'd love this podcast. The one and only Megan Fox, a very spiritual being herself, very
Mm-hmm.
tapped into astrology.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love watching fucking interviews with her. I just like,
Yeah, I need to watch more because I watched some this morning preparing and I was like, wow, I am obsessed.
yeah, yeah. She's a spiritual fucking girly. Like, and I love how much she talks about it. And
Yeah. And it's so refreshing from a Taurus. I always love when an earth sign, especially, is
mhm,
very like just open to talking about that and very in it, heart and soul. Like,
mhm.
so refreshing. She's
I
so cool.
agree. I agree. And has the self-awareness too of like I know how
Yeah.
I sound and
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
know how I look and like I've heard everything the media's ever had to fucking say
Yeah.
about me. Like and she's still in her Taurus way stands on her business.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. Yeah, I do.
So I am really into it's called the Astrology Podcast. It's really a big thing I'm realizing with this astrologer Chris Brennan, who is like he's an Aquarius, and he is really like I guess like the voice of the new generation of astrologers. And so I was watching his podcast on YouTube recently, and he was talking about something. I don't remember exactly what, but he had a guest astrologer on, and Megan Fox came up, and he was talking about how Megan Fox is an astrologer, and the guest astrologer was sort of like, "Oh yeah, Megan Fox, like giving voice to astrology, like blah blah blah," and he was like, "No, well, she is an astrologer." And I was like, "Yes, defend her!" Like,
Yeah.
but
She really
yeah.
knows her shit. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
And a
and
Taurus wouldn't just talk blindly on a
come
public
on,
platform.
a
Again,
Taurus?
tell me you're not an astrologer because like what a Taurus is never gonna talk their shit on a public platform if they don't fully
Absolutely.
back it and know what they're talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're so right. Yeah, and I was just watching this GQ couples interview with Megan Kelly, Jesus Christ, with Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly. And they astrology came up so much, and one of the questions was like, "What's Machine Gun Kelly's sign?" And
Your sun is Taurus, your moon is Pisces, your rising is Gemini. You have a stellium of planets in Pisces.
doing the
She had
whole
it
thing. Yeah,
memorized.
she was like, "I
Yeah.
have the whole chart memorized."
Yeah. I loved I know exactly what interview you're talking about. And I also love that Machine Gun Kelly at no point, correct me if I'm wrong, is like she's into this shit or like
No,
this woo woo
absolutely
bullshit.
not.
He's
He's a
like, she
Pisces
knows the
man.
whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's immediately like, well, she would know it better than I would, but in no
Mhm.
point ever disrespects it or shits on it.
Mhm. Love it.
I love it too. And like, of course, she's gonna know her man's entire chart. And again, none of us know Megan Fox personally. That's why we talk about her like we do. Blah blah blah. Not to get all boomer with it,
Right.
but like, it's at a point where I'm like, these parasocial relationships that we have with celebrities, yada yada, we don't know them personally. This is why they're going to let us down from time to time. But I love that. I think a lot of the conversation around her and Machine Gun Kelly is like, why? And I feel like I kind of just get it, and I kind of
Same.
just see it. And when you get married really young like that, um, like she did, or like not even married young, but just from a very young age was in a long-term committed relationship, um, and had kids with this person. And like, on top of that, that's already one thing that can really, make your life look drastic when you do, sort of when you get a little older and maybe do a complete 180 or something. Like, to me, it just kind of makes a lot of sense, a lot of the growth that happens, but especially in the industry that she's in. That is
Yeah.
so Taurus of her that she had such a long-term committed relationship with someone for so long. To me, that
Right.
also is so Taurus in an industry that is so yada yada
Difficult to
and up
achieve
and
that.
yes. And then also though, like, to really know, to get out of, to be in a sort of completely different place now in your life, but as a Taurus to know exactly what it is that you want. And like, to me it just does, like, I just feel like looking at Megan Fox's chart, knowing the very limited information that I do know about her, she loves this man. And
Yeah.
like, she has done her research, she knows exactly what she's
Mm-hmm.
getting into.
Yeah.
And
And
like,
she's grounded and he's a Taurus too.
yeah, yeah. And she says that she genuinely feels like they are soulmates. Like, uh, I'm just kind of a fan. I'm
I
just a
am
really
too.
big fan of
I
those two.
support them. I like literally didn't know anything about their relationship until today as I was preparing for this pod. But like in the little bit of research I did, I was like, "Oh, I'm like feeling sentimental toward them. Like this is
Right.
cute."
Right.
Um
No,
yeah.
yeah. It is fun to see Megan Fox, like, because this woman has been she's been fucking Megan Fox since she entered the game, right? Like, she's just
Mhm.
always been gorgeous. And like, you really see a lot of, like, first of all, the media is horrible. People's opinions on like that Hollywood celebrities should never age, especially that bullshit on women, and how women do like lose roles because they age out of Hollywood, right? Like, this isn't news. To watch her still be Megan fucking Fox, but also like have like this a little more like freedom, and she's in this very passionate like relationship, and she's kind of in the public eye more now than she ever has been, but it's been a flip. Like, I feel like she does have a lot more respect now than she did, and she's appreciated a lot more, and then shares her fucking philosophical, spiritual, witchy energy in
She's
these interviews.
also,
Like, she's
yeah.
amazing.
Also in the interview I was watching, she really comes off as such a smart person, and that's
Hmm.
something Machine Gun Kelly said too, is like she's an encyclopedia, she knows everything. But like that is such a Taurus thing to me. Like so many Taurans I know are just they have a wealth of information.
Hmm.
Often they have Gemini placements too, because it's
Mm.
so near each other. But like I think both signs love to just like they remember. Taurus has like the best memory also,
Yeah.
and just like values knowing its shit. Like, yeah, like if you're gonna speak upon something, it's because you really value it and know it.
Hmm.
So I was getting that from her. Yeah, she's not. I also just hate in general judging a book by its cover and like
Right.
the whole
And we
hot
grew
girl
up in a
thing. And
time, yep, yep. We still, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but we definitely still grew up in a time where that was like a status quo of like, she's hot, so she can't possibly have anything to fucking say that we could fucking care about. And
right,
she clearly
such
isn't smart.
bullshit.
Yeah. And I'll never forget to kind of like other women kind of speaking about, I remember like, I think she got fired technically. I could totally be wrong on this, from the like the Michael Bay Transformers
I
films.
heard that too. Yeah.
And I remember watching an interview too where she's like in the middle of an interview and Michael Bay comes like behind her and like says like something rude, but you kind of can't fully hear it, but you can tell the tone isn't the most pleasant. And she like snaps at him in the middle of her interview, like, fuck off. And like, in a way that I remember people being like, she's so lucky to have a role from him.
Oh, fuck off.
And like, I'm like, I have no idea how she was treated on set, but I can imagine it wasn't fucking great if she's like, if he thinks that's okay to disrespect her interview like that, and if she's clearly like, I just remember kind of feeling her rage in that moment,
I'm
and
gonna
not in a
look for
place that
that.
she was being like a bratty little star. Like, I think she was like probably treated like an object on that set. Exactly. All the when you watch the shots of her too, again, it's from the perspective of a teenage boy whose card's about to turn into a robot. So like, or like, an alien from another, whatever the fuck. But like, so naturally, like we're seeing it from her perspective, but I'm sure she was not treated. And then they replaced her
Yeah.
with a Victoria's Secret model. I forget
Right.
who it is, but like halfway through the series, she's like out,
Yeah.
and they just like, again, that's how she was always treated in Hollywood by men. I can't imagine that Michael Bay was much better. I want to say more shit about that came out, but I just
No,
remember
I
back in the
heard
day
the same
people
thing.
talking so rudely about her. And like, again, this was when it was like really end to hate her and hate on her. And it's just really cool to see her sort of, that she was still given grace and allowed growth, and to see her in a more like positive limelight. Not that she needed that shit, but like it is just like, it's good to see it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
No,
just,
I can't
yeah.
agree more. Totally.
And
Yeah.
I do think she's very talented, and it clearly gives a shit about her roles. That's another thing I wanted to add. Yes, she's always been cast as like, I think she blew up from a music video when she was like 17. I forget what the music video was, but like, yes, of course she got her roles from being hot.
Apparently,
Um
she has been modeling since 11 or 12.
right, like she's always been gorgeous.
Yeah.
And of
As
course
many
these gross
Taurans
ass
are.
men, right? And then of course is like going to get cast by men in Hollywood who are only going to treat her like an object and only cast her in these roles that are to be sexy. But like the what it was, the Jennifer's Body, that movie, for example, the cold fucking classic that movie is, the praise it now receives that it didn't in the moment. And a lot of that was because the creator of Jennifer's Body was also the creator of Juno, and they had like a screen test and brought in an audience that was very like Juno loving and like Juno based. And
Yeah.
it's not Juno, it's so fucking
Oh my
different from
God. Yeah.
Juno. It's so good. They're both so different and great in
Yeah.
their own
Yeah.
respects, those movies. But when Jennifer's Body came out, it was like shit on. And it's something that I now like. I don't know if I ever watched it when it originally came out, but I always liked it. And I always thought it was so funny. And now it has like, it's a cult classic. It gets like respect in so many different levels. Like people really appreciate that film now in ways they didn't back in the day.
Yeah.
And Megan herself says that that's like her favorite role.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
like her
Of
favorite movie that
course. Oh
she
my God.
did.
It's so iconic.
And
Yeah.
she also got cast by a woman who also probably like gave us more of a shit about her
Yeah.
for the first time than she had ever really been given before. And she was allowed to do a lot of like out there stuff. And like, yes, she was still playing this hot role, but also like demonic. Like it had to speak to her soul on so many levels.
Yeah.
And then I was watching New Girl. I was a huge fan of New Girl as it was like airing. She comes for like a whole season. She ends up being featured as like a
Oh,
character, and she's so fucking good in it. Like
I'm
you
sure.
can just really tell
Taurans
she
are
gives a shit.
funny. Yeah. And they
Yes.
care for sure. They
Mhm.
don't do anything without putting that like sense of value and authority and quality into
Yeah.
the work. Yeah.
And it's just beautiful to see her have more respect in that industry. She should have had it from the beginning, but like, yeah. I yes. Go on, Heather. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So this chart, I love how you okay, yeah. Going off of everything we just said, there's so many things popping out at me. So Megan she's a Taurus sun, Leo moon, Capricorn rising, and Capricorn, I think, often comes across almost like, at least in like presentation, almost like Scorpio sometimes. There's a lot of like
Mhm.
Capricorns I know who like come off as sort of like just aesthetically like grungy or like darker. But I also think it's really cool that Pluto, Scorpio's ruling planet, that is like the planet of darkness, is
Right.
conjunct her midheaven, which is the public career and public reputation point. And for celebrities, that's often what we see, or if they have something on the midheaven, that's sort of like what they're meant to bring to the public. So I think it's really
Mhm.
cool that she's like known for Jennifer's Body, that she
Right.
kind of does have this like, I think like what's the word? Not character, but sort of like one of the roles she plays in our collective seems to be like bringing that sort of Scorpio like darkness to
Mhm.
the forefront. But then that passionate Leo moon in the 7th house of relationships, her relationships really mean a lot to her, and her one-to-one relationships and romance like gives a lot of emotional security. And Sun in the 4th house of Cancer, which is very like nurturing and caring and sensitive and intuitive. And then also Mars, Aries planet of like drive and assertion, and yeah, that just like raw masculine power is right
Mhm.
on her ascendant in Capricorn. So yeah, she can say fuck off Michael Bay. Like that's very like, or like, yeah, she wants Machine Gun Kelly and she's gonna go for it. And it's like, you know, it's what she wants. And that to me is very Mars on the ascendant. So she has this like, a lot of the chart is very like nurturing and feminine, but then she has these placements that are very like harsh and like
Right.
I don't give a shit kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
She's again, I think it's that Taurus bull. Like, I'm not here to fuck with your shit and tell you how to
Yeah.
believe and think, but like this is what I stand on and
Yeah.
don't fuck with me and you won't get the
Yeah.
horns.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
very simple. Like
Yeah.
nature has a respect to it. There's a cycle. Like
Yeah.
go out of that cycle and that's how you get hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I just she like again, she's make like a lot of people aren't gonna we have this notion this is a podcast that does charts of celebrities. So naturally, we're talking about celebrities. No one is here to coddle a celebrity, of course. But I do think, like, again, I'm just very impressed. If it were me and it was my chart and the media had scrutinized me like that for years and years and years, I know myself. I know me. I would have fucking given up. I would have quit so fast. I would have taken the fucking money, gotten the hell out of there. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
she didn't need to keep doing things. I don't like,
Yeah.
and like, well, I guess I didn't know her financial situation, but she at that point had been
Jupiter
in
in the
enough,
2nd
like,
house, very financially lucky. That is like the best.
yes.
She has the best placements for finances, actually.
And just the
But
big projects she was in that are still making her money, even though they're not
right.
super, like Transformers was huge alone. But
Yeah.
to like care about, because I want to say she did Jennifer's Body after Transformers for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but to like give a shit about the craft, to take on projects that you care about, so that you could still be a good mom and a good partner and
Right.
like, but and then to also still be so gracious with your time and energy in Hollywood and use your strengths and like your self-awareness. And she just like, again, I know it's Megan fucking Fox and this probably, but I do feel like she's a grounded bitch. I do feel like she's
Yeah.
someone I can kick it with. And
Totally.
I know that we jokingly say that about a handful of celebrities, but we don't say that about a lot of them. And I don't think you
No.
can say that about a lot of them.
Yeah.
Um, and she does have such a groundedness for someone who is so unbelievably hot by conventionally attractive standards. But I also mean that on like the inside, like her energy, her aura feels very like she's not here to be mean to anyone or like to attract any negativeness. And not, I want to be so clear that I think there's a lot of celebrities who speak this tone of like love and light. It's all love and light. And you can almost, there's an undertone of like, you don't mean that. And
Yeah.
there is still an undertone of pettiness that comes with that.
Yeah.
And this need to be like, oh, I'm saying I don't care because that looks better than saying you do. But you're still delivering it in a way that's like, I give a shit, but I'm going to say I don't because that's the higher road, which, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do feel like there's a genuine authenticity to Megan that is
Yeah.
like, I'm sharing this. I know the scrutiny I'm going to get. I know that I sound like a liberal Hollywood like actor who has a ton of money and can, like I sound like a woo woo, like witchy, but I think I'd rather fucking hear them talk about that from a genuine, real, authentic place than lying about their Botox or trying to sell me a product
Yeah,
or,
literally. Yeah.
and like she just put out a book of poetry. Which
Oh,
like again, I know she makes money off of, but again, a lot of those poems feel very like vulnerable, and I feel like she's really sharing, and I think there is
Well,
something so
no,
like
that's so cool. She's not making like a line of water bottles or like like
here's my new
fucking
brand
here's
that
my
yeah,
merch.
makeup.
Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
she's
right.
actually offering something artistic and emotional.
And very like, again, I think there's something about like, oh my God, Megan Fox, the most beautiful woman in the world who's been objectified since like her birth, like can put out like has also had hardships and troubles with like an area that we all like. I feel her need to connect, and I feel it from a place of from genuine authenticity, from creativity, from like human to human, like I see you connection. I like
Totally.
she really exudes that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I hope she never stops talking about her
Yeah.
spiritual side.
Me
And
too.
like, I just am such a fan. I'm
Her
really such a
Jupiter
fan.
in the second, also the second house is Taurus's house, and Jupiter is like, yeah, the lucky, abundant, expansive planet is in Pisces, trine the midheaven and Pluto. So that's like so cool that tapping into the spirituality has like expanded her so much, but also that like is her core values because it's in the house of Taurus and values
Mm-hmm.
and that it gets natural expression being connected to the midheaven and the Pluto
Right.
up there. Yeah, God, I'm such a fan. Yeah, I watched this GQ interview with her and Machine Gun Kelly, and then like just YouTube afterward started playing an interview on the Drew Barrymore show with Machine Gun Kelly, and I was
I've
like
seen that
getting
one. Yeah.
ready, and I was like I was thinking I would turn it off, but then I was like, wait, I'm so into this because going off of what you just said about celebrities being like, oh, live, laugh, love, or whatever, like he came on the show and immediately was like, yeah, like not to be a downer, but I'm like actually just having like a bad day and I'm like not in it right now. And like I still want to like have fun with you on this show, but like I'm just gonna be real. Like I'm in the emotions today. And she as a Pisces was like, I hear you. Like I appreciate that. Like let's be real. And they just like went off about like emotions and how they deal with that and how like being a celebrity you're supposed to always just like be on and be like fake almost and how I don't know, it was just such a Pisces authentic real
Right.
conversation and then they started joking about how like his publicist was like downing the wine right now or like rolling her eyes or like just but it
The
was like
self-awareness was
so
there, but he was like, and again, and like to what probably made him say that is too of like, imagine the amount of comments he's gotten. Do you know how many times I've had to say that to a friend of like, give me a minute to adjust here. I'm sorry. I've had such a bad day. I'm going to be myself in a moment. I'm in the dumps and I need to vent or I need to bitch or like, but to just expect that, okay, well, this is a TV show and you have a team of people who
I
need to make
can't
money off you. You're not a
imagine.
product.
I can't
You're
go to my
not
job where I'm in my own office without like just crying
having a teary
sometime. Yeah,
moment.
like it's
Needing a
life.
cry, needing an office
Yeah.
cry.
So
Yeah.
I can't
And
imagine being on that
and then
schedule.
and even and maybe all the times you weren't transparent with it, how people were in the comments like he seems like a dick today, or like or
Right?
he's and like that need to be
Misinterpreting.
like, that's such a beautiful. I'm gonna watch the interview again
You
after we
should. I was
because
like,
I
wait, this
have
is
seen it, but
I was
I
like, I'm
forgot
gonna
how much
watch
I
the Drew
like it.
Barrymore show now also.
Yeah.
Like this is like
And
and
again,
he's a
this is
Pisces moon and it just all made so
mhm.
much sense. But like also that grounded Taurus of being real and just being like, yeah,
Let me
I'm
just be a person for a minute. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't need to pretend here. And yeah, no, and I do. This is again why I'm like, I can understand people's confusion with the MGK and the Megan sort of matchup, but like when you see them together, and again, we don't know the inner workings of their relationship.
Yeah,
And
nor
but
should we
these are
pretend to.
two
Yeah.
right, but these are what we can tell two Taurans who know what they want if we've learned anything. And
Yes.
so like regardless of what the fuck the other people think about it, anyone else, like I just am rooting for them. I'm rooting for them individually as Taurans, but also like I hope they prove the bastards wrong.
Yeah.
And like are together till they die. But like, yeah, it is just the Taurus, there's so many like layers I feel like to Taurus alone. Like there are, again, it's almost a conundrum within itself. That grounded rootness, but again, that bull charge energy. Like I love it. It is such
Mm-hmm.
a not complicated, but just such a layered energy
Yeah.
and sign, and it really bleeds into that Aquarius or excuse me, Aries. And then the Gemini.
Yeah.
Fascinating
I know.
layers to it
Taurus
all.
gets a really bad rep for being simple, or boring is a word I hear a lot in like pop astrology. And I guess there is that sort of, there's truth to the laziness of a Venus ruled sign, of just like wanting to enjoy the pleasures, of just wanting to like sit and enjoy the senses. But it's not simple. I do not
Right.
think there are layers to Taurus, I
Right.
think. And there's so much passion in their core value system, in
Right.
meeting a core value system and living by that. There's like passion there.
Mm-hmm. I also think when you like coming across secure and coming across sort of like just knowing what you want, like an energy that is just secure, that's rooted, it knows what it is and it knows what it wants, I think can seem like, okay, well, there's no plot in that. But like,
Right.
that's not to say it's not without its challenges, but I think to signs that that is the struggle or the constant challenge of someone else's chart, or just different sign, like for example, Pisces being like the fun is in the not knowing. We like all of life is part of the not knowing and just the vibes. Like, of course, that's going to seem like, well, that's a boring option, but it's like, but Taurus thrives in that energy. It's like not going forward and seeding the initiatives and being
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to a bigger thing. There's nothing boring about that. There's not,
Yeah.
and charging like a fucking bull, balls to the walls. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing boring
Putting
about
all your eggs
Taurus.
in one
Yep.
basket. Yeah.
And fucking stepping on the gas, driving. Yeah, no. I love this energy. I love this time. It carries Aries in with it. It's been a beautiful lineup. But it has, I will say, been a moment of taking a breath, which is what I do appreciate too.
Yes.
Not that I don't want to charge forward, but I have been enjoying this breath. And
Yes.
with that, Heather, are you about to tell me and the folks to take these breaths while we can? What's
Yeah.
coming up? Oh God, what's
No,
coming
it's
up?
it's all
Just
good,
kidding.
I think. It's all good. I think that the first I was just talking to my sister about this. The first 2 days of May are the hardest of the whole month. And
Mm,
we're about to be done with that, because right now as we record this, in Venus is square Pluto in Aquarius, Venus in Taurus, right? Wait, oh my God. Venus is in Taurus and it's
I'm just nodding
squaring
along like whatever you
Pluto in
say.
Aquarius, or and Venus and Pluto squares. I mean, anytime Pluto is harshly aspected, it is just like intense. It's like things that
Right.
are in need of transformation. So, and Venus is like love and finances. So there could be strong transformation, deep soul plunges in
Yes.
these first 2 days within May. But this also happened several times throughout the year. So but also Pluto is starting its retrograde today on May 2nd and will be retrograde till October 12th, moving back into Capricorn later on.
Mm,
But then after that, it'll be in Aquarius for good. So
we're
I,
cruising.
yeah, so I don't think we'll all feel this on a personal level as much, but Pluto is starting its backward
Well,
motion.
we do deserve a break, if I must speak
I
for
know,
me and the people,
honestly,
Heather.
yeah, I know. And especially for Aquarians, there might be a little bit of like a load off, or a little bit of
Mm,
like, all right, there you were under a pressure cooker, but like
right.
we can
We can hit
rewind a little.
release.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For early Aquarians especially. And then the next big thing, I mean, there's not like a ton going on this week, but the next big thing is Wednesday, May 8th, the Taurus new moon, which is right by the Uranus, Jupiter, and Venus conjunction in Taurus, which is very exciting. So it's like an especially activated new moon where all of these big planets are together in Taurus, one of them being the lucky planet Jupiter, one of them being
Mm,
the planet of like spontaneous beneficial breakthroughs, Uranus, and progress. So that with Venus, which is also the planet of pleasure and beauty and attracting things, having the new moon lumped in with all of that in a sign that is already about like
right.
pleasure and harmony and seeding things is a
Mhm.
it's a really nice new moon on May 8th. All the astrologers from all of the newsletters and everything I read, they're like, treat yourself on this day. Do that. Don't go crazy because it's a day where you might want to just like fuck it all and blow the bank,
Mhm.
but like treat yourself, but also in
With
a
limitations.
yeah.
And you will be rewarded.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Um
amazing. Sorry, go on, Heather. Go on.
that's it. That's it. Yeah.
No, I was just saying, like, again, we know that there's never truly, I mean, we're feeling these breaths, we're taking these breaths, we deserve these breaths, but the movement, of course, never stops. But it is like just where we were was choppy. It
It
was just,
was.
it was just choppy, is all.
Yeah.
So we're still moving, but we're
Yeah.
having a little bit of like, okay, we're in the calm,
Yeah.
before we rev up again. Get rooted,
Yeah.
listeners. Just get like truly actually get outside, soak in that outdoorsy energy. Um, get rooted in the goals, get rooted in the going forward, the bullness. All right, if you may, if I may, if we all may, the charging of it forward, but with those roots implanted,
Yeah.
you will be rewarded,
Mhm.
says the universe. But that's, I'm just a messenger, don't shoot me. Oh, Heather,
No, I'm
I
with you.
do love this time of year. I am
Mhm.
ready to soak it the fuck in the way Megan Fox would and Machine Gun Kelly.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I bet
Plant those
I
seeds.
I bet they're sowing those oats right now.
I bet. I bet.
And with that, I love you so much, Heather.
I love you. Till
We
next
love you,
time.
listeners. Yes. Till next time. Take those breaths, baby. Taurus season is here. Bye.
Bye.
Infinite abundance.
Infinite abundance. Bye.